Made me feel kind of bad. But anyway, they're really working hard on getting their director.
Yeah.
And so with the things that have been going on, they've been moved along really, really well. I've been impressed with the things that have been going on. So anyway, just so you know that's it's not dead somewhere. It's really, really being worked on. So.
Good. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna handout for each of you, hopefully. Mosquito abatement, their proposed budget will include a tax increase. This talks kind of about the reasons, the increase amount, and on the back side is some talking points that justification, if you will.
I'm a little concerned. This is the average resident in Davis County value at 600,000. That's a little high for me. I don't know about that.
I'm not the guy to answer.
Either. No, that means, yeah, that's
Value of the home.
divided amongst everybody.
Some of the biggest factors are they need a new pesticide storage shed built. The current one was built in the 90s, I believe.
Out of compliance?
Well, it's in compliance, but it's tough to keep up with the growth of the county.
Oh, that's true.
So, if you have any questions, come to me. And I believe, Clint, when a special service district raises taxes, they're telling me that it needs to be an item on one of our agendas in a regular meeting.
On one of ours?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
We've never done that before. We
Yeah.
just noticed it.
Well, that's what they are requesting.
Well,
so
they have their
we'll
public
work on
hearing
it.
scheduled.
We've got a public hearing scheduled for December
Yeah.
11th, which will be our regular board meeting, committee meeting, for the mosquito abatement. I guess they're on a different tax, or
Fiscal year.
fiscal year.
Yeah.
Are they coming here, you say? Because it says
Gary Hatch, that's the public hearing for the mosquito abatement district.
Oh, okay.
So, but the director, Gary Hatch, has offered to come and explain it if the council would like at any time between now and the hearing, but they would like to have it. So I'll work with Kim and the mayor to get it on an official agenda.
All right. Thank you. That's good,
Yeah.
General. Thanks for the heads up in advance. I guess this would go into effect next year, right? Or January 1?
Yeah.
So it's January.
It's January of the next fiscal year.
Whatever the fiscal year would be. I just have one,
Sure.
just one internal update, I guess, for CTC. We've talked about recruitment and things of that nature, but we had an outreach working group meeting today just to kind of refine what it is we are looking for when we are outreaching. And so we have a meeting, we have a regular community board meeting every month. But the November meeting is going to be, I hate to call it training because, you know, that's the word, but somewhat of a training just to kind of help the board members to be able to express what the needs are of CTC. So like when you're talking to folks and you find that they might be interested in what we're doing. So it's going to be twofold to help board members be able to do that for recruitment, but also to help promote the programs that we have. I know that we have a class that's starting tonight, and another one that started last week, and sometimes those aren't as full as we'd like them to be. And so we were at the Northridge Community Night last week, earlier this week.
Yeah, it was Monday night. Yeah, it was
Monday
good.
night.
Yeah, very good.
And it was very well attended. I've been announcing that Born to Succeed Summit for the junior or the high school age kids. And we had, I don't want to misquote the number of flyers that we had, but all of them were taken. So kids were there, adults were there. And so on November 3rd, we're just going to kind of hone in on what the message is, so we can talk about not only just participating as an adult on the board who can help, with our young people, but also to promote the programs and the things that we're partnering with and participating in. So that's something that I'm excited. I think I'm good at facilitating, so if you guys want to come, you're welcome.
Are
If
there
you want your
treats?
own, we can work on that.
Okay.
If you want your own session, we can work that out too. But yeah, that's something that we're gonna be doing on November 3rd.
UIA held a public hearing on the issuance of those bonds to help fund capital projects. There were no comments that were made and passed unanimously, so kind of next step forward, getting more capital and building up the network more and more.
Good.
Wow.
Anything else?
You okay?
Good.
Am I okay? I have a code, you got
Okay.
to.
Just really quick, a couple things. We had the ramp, the PIC committee had a meeting last night. Everything's all together. To talk about steps moving forward. It was okay. We had a lot of members of the community there and were able to talk about the benefits of the last decade.
That's cool.
Moving forward, they are, I think their next step is campaign signs, and there's we got a flyer to maybe send out, and so. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mayor.
I'm gonna add that you did a really good job. As far as the presentation, you went
Nice.
through the same slide deck that we all
Yeah.
could see, right? But it was good to kind of re-emphasize that and also the importance of it, so I wanna say thank you for doing it.
You're
And
welcome.
you'll know a lot of good places to put signs.
Someone here will too. Lastly, LPC, there was a meeting this last month. For some reason I had it down for Wednesday, but it was actually Monday, so I didn't participate. But Mr. Drake, he said he'd maybe give us a high-level
Yeah.
summary of
I was
what's.
online, Clint's got
You,
front row detail.
Yeah,
you're right.
he was in vivo.
Yeah, I was, so just, first thing, just a reminder, sorry if you already mentioned this, but the annual convention is coming up, if you're gonna participate in that. And then, some interesting stuff, just really briefly, I'd be happy to talk about it in detail, after, if you wanna talk, we can talk here. But just some discussion about, some revenue-related stuff, some property tax stuff. Interesting about, there's a beer tax, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and those proceeds are can only be used in certain ways, and apparently some cities aren't using their beer tax money, so there's discussion about use it or lose it type situation. So we're doing pretty good on that. Our police department does well with that, but there was discussion about the Department of Environmental Quality and some water fees. I would defer to Steve if you have any questions about that. Steve and his group have been really invested in that. Maybe just give them a real quick rundown of what it is. And
So the Division of Drinking Water is losing some real serious funding from the federal government through some of this big beautiful bill, and so they've got some challenges with their department budget. They've come up with a number of $5.6 million a year that they want to collect from all of the drinking water systems in the state. However, they built it more like a tax where they just are going to require us to collect basically 3 cents per every 1,000 gallons of water delivered. We feel like that's pretty inequitable. The top 5 cities in the state will pay 25% of the budget to the division. The top 14 will pay 50%, and the top 41 will pay 75%. So we've been fairly vocal about that. Our portion would be $116,000 a year that we would have to collect and send to them. So we've asked them to reevaluate the structure and look at a more equitable fee, because we feel like the larger cities are actually not using the resources of the division, and the state really ought to look at a different funding mechanism to help some of the smaller cities
couple other things. There was some discussion about a Utah Supreme Court decision known as the Armenta case that involves governmental immunity and public safety, in particular emergency responders and the EMTs. There's some concerns over what that might do. Basically, there was a case where a unified fire did a wellness check on an individual in Salt Lake County and didn't find any issues with his vitals, but he continued to have issues over the next week and ended up going to a hospital. And anyway, he ended up suing Unified over their assessment of his vitals, and they ended up, the Supreme Court ended up holding Unified liable for that. So there's some concerns about that and how that impacts us. And so there's some talk of some legislation, but nothing in particular that I've seen yet that's been proposed. Just one that you might all find interesting. There's discussion apparently about changing local school board elections to be on the same years as municipal elections. And then also giving cities the ability to cancel primaries regardless of the number of candidates.
What?
Yeah. So you would just have, if a city opted, they could, whether you had 2 candidates or 20 candidates, you could cancel a primary, and it's a may.
Yeah,
but,
not a shall.
But thought that was interesting, that those are some of the things that have been talked about. Then just nothing to report other than there's a lot of talk about detached ADUs and whether those are gonna be allowed and how they'll be allowed throughout the state. Some different surveys on housing and land, moderate income housing, short-term rentals. There's a lot of information going back and forth about those, but nothing, I haven't seen anything real concrete yet, but there's gonna be a lot in the next few months, so. stay
Sounds like
tuned.
the bill count's gonna be high this year. That's what it sounds like to me.
I think so, for sure.
Yo. Well, thanks,
Yep.
Thank you.
that's a good heads up on all this. And as always, if there's anything, like obviously the water, that we
Yeah.
really need to pay close attention to.
Steve, I
keep us
honestly, I
informed.
think Steve and his group probably it was really, really good feedback, and I know the league really appreciated it, so, we forwarded that along to the state and to the league, so they're aware of it. We're staying on top of all the other stuff. Like I said, this was more of a lot of deliberation, opinion gathering,
Type of thing.
Slido surveys, stuff like that, to get
Yeah.
a gauge of where we're at so that we can start formulating plans moving forward.
The water, the question of that funding, so that wasn't part of this was just because they're losing the federal funding. It wasn't part of a bill from last legislative
It was
session.
part of the bill from last session. I believe the Division of Drinking Water wanted to have more time to roll something out. And then because they just found out last month that the Big Beautiful Bill was cutting some of these federal grant funds and things, they were kind of scrambling. And I think that's the big challenge all the water systems have, is that they didn't give us a lot of time to look at it. And obviously, when we ran the numbers, we kind of wondered how five of the cities should pay 25% of the bill. So it was based on the consumption in their cities.
There's the concept was to create, much like us, where you got infrastructure into the future.
Yes.
And so this is maybe fast forwarding that without, now it's even less funding.
Well,
The state was
there's-
like, we've got all these, we've got dams, and we've got reservoirs that need funding, and we've got all the infrastructure into the future. How are we gonna pay for that? You can't pay for it by how much water you use. It's gotta be
Yeah.
attached to and so.
And that's a big component of this, is they're saying that this fee would go to pay for the operations of the division. And it's unclear how much of that is going towards future projects and all of these other things. So there's a lot of questions that we've asked, because for us, a fee has to be commensurate to the services provided, and we just don't understand how they can justify what they're charging to the largest systems in the state.
And I should have included this, but so, the director actually came to, not this last LPC, but the one before, and the group had a lot of questions for him, and then we.
They were nice, though.
They were nice, but there was a lot of questions. And then subsequently, a lot of cities, including Layton City, provided feedback. They have said that they are amending it, they're changing it based upon the feedback, but we haven't seen what the changes are yet, so. They said they got a lot of feedback, and they're making some changes based on that feedback.
It's
That's a
okay, they
big
still
maybe.
wanna reduce our taxes. You just weren't out there. Okay, well, those are good reports. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks.
that. Mr. Jackson, do you want to go ahead and take over now for our transportation master plan?
I'm gonna invite Jeremy to come sit up here with me if I could. And,
Sure.
So, first of all, I want to introduce, I think some of you have met Bryant Jacobs, he's our city engineer, and then Mindy Hunsaker is our transportation engineer. So she doesn't get to come very often, but we thought with all the work she's done on this, we wanted to recognize them and the efforts that they've done. Jeremy is with Wall Consultant Group. He's the consultant that we hired to work on our transportation master plan update as well as Zion's public finance. So we wanted to kind of give an update on the transportation master plan. The plan is to provide you with all these documents. There's 200 pages between the three components. So we thought rather than just dump 200 pages on you, we would go through kind of a summary, and then we'll provide these to you as for your review. There's actually a kind of, what are we calling it?
Story map.
Story map, yeah, website, so you can peruse that as well during the time. But then, no decisions tonight, just kind of an update, and then we propose to bring this back on the 2nd of October, hold a public hearing, and allow the council to listen to any comments anybody has, and then potentially adopt this plan if there's the desire
Can we
to
go
do so.
50 pages at a time?
You can read it as much and as fast as you want.
No,
You know, I
okay.
just- We don't have a 200 pages worth of slides here, though, I can promise you that. So Weston still has a presentation, so we're gonna make sure we give him enough time. So just kind of from an overall view of this, I don't know how many of you were on the council the last time that we updated the plan, but in 2017, Horrocks Engineers did our last plan update. So the current one was prepared by Wall Consulting Group. And it contains three components. So the first one is the transportation master plan, and that's the one that goes into all of the detail of the plans, the projects, the needs, the growth, all of those things. The second part of that is the impact fee facilities plan. So once we've kind of identified all of the needs and the future projections that we have, we go into a facilities plan that addresses the growth for the next 10 years, so that we can, look at what kind of impact fees would be appropriate as growth occurs throughout the city and how we fund that growth. And then the third component is the impact fee analysis, and that goes into how we calculate what the impact fees are that we charge new developments as they come into the city. So we'll talk about each one of these as we go tonight, and if you have any questions, we can certainly try and answer those or provide you that information as we send this out. So obviously these documents, they guide the transportation facility investment through 2034, which is that 10-year window for the impact fees, and then out to 2050 in the transportation master plan. So it looks into kind of three 10-year windows as we look at that. And it obviously is supporting the city's growth, the regional mobility that we have. We obviously are the largest city in Davis County, and because of that, we have a lot of regional impact throughout the area. So, and then it also addresses safety, accessibility, and the economic viability of the city as we grow. So we'll jump into the transportation master plan. I'm going to pop out of this real quick and open up the website. So this link at the bottom of that, when we send this out to you, will take you to this web page. So again, Wall Consulting Group helped us put this together. As we look at the transportation master plan, it guides this infrastructure investment, and so we can look at the story map as you scroll through. This is just a map of the city boundaries, but it talks about the population, our population growth over the last several years, obviously going from 41,000 to 81,000 since 1990 up to 2020. We're projected to grow to almost 120,000 by the year 2050, so a 38% increase, right? So nothing small, but we think that we can manage this as we go through and work on
Is that-
doing that. So
I always hear the term build out. Is that build out?
yes, yeah, I mean
that's
build
pretty
out.
full.
Build
That's
out's
pretty
kind
full.
of it's
Okay.
pretty full.
That's
yeah.
the only way to put it.
Yeah, it's
full is
pretty
a good
full.
one. I get that one.
Build out's kind of one of those numbers that keeps moving every
Yeah,
year,
right.
but yes, I would say that's roughly the build out projection that we
Okay.
have. So, So as we look at our roadway system, I think we've talked a lot about functional classifications of roads. So we have to balance in this hierarchy of roadways, we have to balance mobility and land access, right? And so you see a lot of roads are our larger roads, the arterials, they have a lot of high mobility, but they have a lower degree of access. We restrict access points because we have so many vehicles on the roads, we have so many, you know, we're moving a lot of vehicles, but then when you get into the local roads, you're trying to balance the, you know, you don't have as many cars, but you want more access so people can get to their homes, to the businesses, things that are in those areas. So this map here shows some of those roads, and you can click on these. I'll just kind of show you how to navigate so you can make them bigger. You can click into these maps if you want to make them, and you can zoom all over in them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going in and out because it'll probably make you all dizzy or sick. But when you get this link, feel free to come in here and play around anything you want to check out. So as we look at this, I'm going to try and make this, there you go. So you can see all the roads, arterials, collectors are all on there. As we scroll to the next one, you can see a principal arterial. We only have a couple of those. That's Antelope, and this is Highway 193. As you click on this, this is what a 124-foot right-of-way would look like. 7 lanes of traffic with shoulders and a center turn lane. And one of the things to point out is these shoulders are available in the plans to have side treatment. So we have the options to look at our plans, our active transportation plan, other plans, and we can put bike lanes, shared use paths, parking, some of those things. So that's kind of the nice part about having these arterials or the roadway cross sections that we have, is that we can provide mobility along them, but we can also use a little bit of flexibility as we look at those plans. So principal arterials in Layton are actually the UDOT roads that we have. As we go to just a regular arterial, you could see it's closer to a 5-lane facility. We have, you know, these are buffered bike lanes, so that would be what the look would be with that 8-foot shoulder if we had a bike lane in there instead of just a parking shoulder. And then some of those major, or some of those arterials, obviously you can see 2700 West and Hillfield Road. You've got Antelope east of basically Hillfield, you've got Gordon Avenue, you've got Oak Hills and Gentile, things like that. So again, clicking in the map, you can kind of zoom around on all of those things. So then we go to our minor arterials, which are Gordon Avenue, Gentile Street, Hillfield Road west of 2700 West, Fairfield, Fort Lane, some of those areas. Again, a little bit smaller cross-section, 84 feet of pavement. Again, you see that you can have the buffers and the bike lanes and things in those. And then we go down to our collectors, and so you can see a lot of those, 2200 West, 3200 West, Church Street, a lot of the areas, the frontage roads along Highway 89. And so we have a couple options there. We've got a 66-foot collector, which would be more of the 3 lanes of traffic, or the 2 lanes with the center turn lane, or we have a 60-foot collector, which is, you know, 2 lanes of traffic, and then we could, you know, decide what kind of site treatments we would need on those based on our plan. So feel free to click through those and look at those as we send this to you. So what do we do with all that information, right? It's a ton of information. How do we determine what needs to happen? We use what's called the travel demand model. And in that travel demand model, that's where we talk about the level of service. And so we look at how much the roads capacity they can hold. We look at how much, you know, traffic we project, all of those things. And so we look at that, and then we determine the level of service. So we go A to F. And I know we've had a lot of discussions about this, but level of service D in the traffic world is an acceptable level of service to build to, because if you build anything higher than that is an expectation, not only would you be having majorly wide roads, but you would also have just some enormous costs that would never be realistic. But really, the level of service D is usually experienced during the PM peaks or the AM peak hours. It's not a constant gridlock that you see. But then if you get into E's and F's, that's where you're seeing, you know, people stopped on the freeway because there was an accident or something like that. It's not really a great example because an accident really isn't normal traffic. But we all know what it was like when they were reconstructing constructing I-15, when they were building West Davis and building 89 altogether. That's kind of level of service E and F around here, so.
I know you don't make the rules,
Yeah.
but it would be lovely if that D said something like moderate flow or something. Because when we see that, it says unstable, and you're like, but this is normal, this is what we build to.
Yeah.
But it says unstable. So that,
Okay.
that
No,
is a
thank you for that.
counterintuitive kind of way to look at it.
That's true, but bumpy, it's a bumpy flow.
Bumpy flow.
Well, and also
Yeah.
when people are used to probably B and C, and then, you
Yeah, they
know,
get-
Yeah, right.
more houses go in, and they're like, well, this road can't handle it, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, it kinda can, but then that says unstable, which says probably no.
Yeah, that-
So it's just.
That confirms what you're telling me, yeah.
It's a great comment. That terminology comes from the Highway Capacity Manual, which is like a federally published document. But I like that comment.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said, I know you don't make the rules, I know.
Right.
We're the ones who just have to answer when the citizens come
Sure.
and tell us.
Oh, I get it.
And if they see that graphic, our argument doesn't help.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
like, well, see, it's unstable.
it's unstable.
Now, you can change the word unstable in the dictionary to mean something else.
So we take this information, we look at the highway roadway network, and then Jeremy and his team have done all kinds of analysis on this. They've used data from the Wasatch Front Regional Council travel demand model, then they've refined that to be specific to the Layton City area, and used our traffic count numbers that we collect as well as those things, and they've identified all of the areas that are in here. And if you click on this, I'll just tell you a secret, you
Our
can
Ds
zoom
are
out.
really As.
Well,
You can zoom out.
I'm just, anyway.
Just saying.
Do that again?
I'm just saying.
You
I
zoom
will
out.
take a picture. I see what you're doing.
When you guys get a bit, have fun in there.
You're gonna give us this soon, right? This
Yes, I'm
week?
planning to send this to you all tomorrow,
After
and
the
so
meeting.
you should have it, yeah.
Okay,
But,
I'll get on right now.
you should have plenty of time to
Exactly.
look through this, and then we do plan to come back for the October 2nd work meeting to answer any additional questions that you have. So, you can see, I think we're doing pretty good as far as our maps. You know, we got a couple of sections that look like they need some attention, but overall, we don't have a lot of areas that are even in level of service D in our 24 existing conditions. So, then what do? We project out to 2034, and we say, what's gonna happen if we do certain things or don't do certain things? So this little bar right here,
No.
if you slide this back and forth, it's kind of fun.
Cool.
No build, I need to clarify this for everybody in the room, no build does not mean that there will be no building. What that means is that if we don't do anything to our transportation network and the growth still comes, this is what the 2034 network would look like. So you can see we have a lot more areas along Antelope, up along Church Street, Gentile, those areas. That's where the issues will start to arise that you'll see. Now, if we look at our map and we take the build scenario, which is we've programmed in some projects over the next 10 years and we start those constructions, you can see that there's some areas that still need some attention, but the areas are far less than what there would be if we didn't do anything, right? And we obviously don't plan to not do anything, but just kind of as a general standard, we always look at what would happen if you just stopped doing anything. And then we look out to the 2050 area, and again, this is the same slider bar that you can look at here. So if we don't do anything and we just kind of let things roll and grow the way that we think they will, you're gonna see a lot of congestion, a lot of problems. And then if you slide it over here to the other side, you can see that the areas in yellow, they're still level of service D, but that's an acceptable functional level that we can, build around and deal with as we go forward. So then after we've looked at all that stuff, we identify, well, what are the projects that we need to do in order to address these problems, right? And so Jeremy and his team have done a great job in consultation with the city staff, and they've come up with these phase 1, 2, and 3. So phase 1 would be in the next 10 years, and then the following 10 years after that, and the following 10 years after that. So they've identified a lot of different projects. And as you dive into this, you can actually see those. It's hard to read on this screen, but it's easier when you're on your own computer at home. But take a look at these. You can, again, come in here and you can zoom in on these. You can click on them. It will identify a lot of information for you in here that we're happy to answer questions on, but, existing lanes, proposed lanes, things like that. So feel free to click around in those, and all of this is also in the big PDF document. So so what are some of the projects that we have? Well, excuse me, so there's roadway projects, but then we also have intersection projects. So there are quite a few intersection projects where we need to look at either improving signals, we need to look at pedestrian hydrant beacons, we need to look at intersection improvements and other things throughout the city. So those are identified there. Again, the numbers are corresponding to this column over here, so feel free to look at that. But again, you're looking at like 3700 West and Gordon. There's a signal that's actually under construction right now. Sandridge Park Boulevard and Gentile Street. There's a signal that's proposed there, 2200 West Layton Parkway, Gordon Avenue, Coal Creek Way, Layton Parkway, 1700, Gordon Avenue, 2800 East. So anyway, feel free to look through those, but obviously between this list here of roadway projects and this list here of intersection projects, there's capital investment that needs to be made and taken care of. So
This doesn't include UDOT, or does include UDOT's?
it does include UDOT as well. Obviously, they have roads in the city, but as we look in this later, you'll see that we actually list them, but then we deduct out that as a funding source. So it's not like the city's bringing that in. Jeremy, is that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if you look in
Well,
that
it does say UDOT.
third
Look,
column,
UDOT,
yeah.
UDOT, like, just read.
That's the responsibility.
Okay,
No,
just
you're
read.
good. So
Yeah.
but that helps you know, like, some of those are, city responsibility, some of
Yeah.
those are UDOT, some of those are partnerships, so you can kind of see
Yeah.
who's doing what.
Actually, I was testing you to see if you were paying attention.
So, how do we address the fact that if we see that, you guys are gonna hate me for bringing this up, but, that bicycle use is on the rise, and we need more bicycles striped roads. Does this
So,
come into the play?
yeah,
or
that's
can
in
we-
here as well. As I drop down to this next one, well, sorry, we'll get to that, Mayor, for sure. Let me, if I can,
Okay.
we'll jump down here and look at some of these. So these are identifying the different projects on the different phases, and then this one here is specifically for phase one, so in the next 10-year intersection roadway projects. So as you look at this one combined, you can see you've identified signals or pedestrian hybrid beacons or different improvements for intersections, and then you've got widenings, new roadways, operations, improvements of some kind, roadway realignments or striping in there. So again, you can click on these items and see. It'll let me click on that. I can't click from 50 feet away very well, but so you can see Antelope Drive. It says there's existing 3 lanes. This project would be to stripe it to 5 lanes, and that would be in phase 1, right? So that's kind of how those are identified as you click through the projects and look at things, so you can jump into all of that. And then on top of that, we analyzed the public transit part of the city, and we had some discussions with UTA, and in their discussions, they've got their 5-year service plan. It's actually linked here. I'm not going to click on it because it'll jump to a whole different map. But feel free to click on the link when you get a minute, and it takes you to this map that shows all of the proposed services. They've already done a few modifications in Layton as far as that goes. One of the big things we're hopeful of is that as we build our transportation network, we can potentially increase the ridership out west and have some routes that go more east-west through the city instead of north-south that there are. And I believe in the 5-year service plan, you'll see that there is some growth there for UTA to expand that. So, and then the next part of that is active transportation, and this goes to what you asked about, Mayor. So our active transportation plan is actually adopted as part of this master transportation plan, and because of that, the active transportation works closely with this plan to cover the bike routes and the different pedestrian paths and things that we have proposed in this plan. And so as we look at doing our roadway projects that are up here, right here, so as we look at that, for example, 2200 West, we would look at 2200 West and say, okay, we need to widen 2200 West. what are the other project components that are part of that? Are we looking at a bus route there? Are we looking at a bike lane there? What are the things in the active transportation plan that we need to plan for? And so we can combine those together and kind of move forward as a cohesive unit so that we're not competing for funding if, for example, one of these roads needs a bike lane stripe, but we're restriping the road, say Antelope needs a bike lane stripe as well, and we're restriping that for 5 lanes, then we take all that into consideration and we take a look at that. Or if there's a active transportation project that moves up on the list and we see that the master plan project needs to coincide with it, then we move them together and try and combine them as we move. And then they also looked at a safety analysis for us. So they took all of the crash data from January 2019 through December of 2023 and they plotted it on a map. I don't believe this is quite as interactive as the other ones, but it does show kind of the heat map here. So the more red and yellow it is, the more crash density.
Angel and what? What's the hot one there? Hillfield?
This is Hillfield interchange, the through turn.
Oh, yes, the knuckle turns.
Yeah,
That makes
so
sense.
that's Hillfield.
Has UDOT seen this?
So, yeah, I just want to comment on that. You'll see all the hottest or the highest crash networks are all UDOT roads. That's not unique to Layton. That's across the state. But part of that is that's where all the volume is too, right? So that's where the highest volumes are, and that's where you tend to get more crashes. So yeah, not unique, but
Yeah, exactly. So they have run some of the data here, and you can see as far as severe crashes, we're slightly higher than Davis County overall. There's intersection crashes, left turn crashes are higher than Davis County. I believe that is also, like Jeremy says, it's a function of our size, it's our population. That doesn't discount the fact that we want to work on that and we want to do safety improvements, but it just kind of goes to what happens when you have growth. So
that's just numerical, not per capita, that's just
yeah,
numbers.
so that is rate. Those are rates.
yeah, rates.
Yeah, so on a per vehicle mile traveled through the city, like let's take severe crashes, it's slightly higher than Davis County as a whole in Layton. Yeah, so those are rates, not just total numbers.
And the Davis County number includes us, it's not.
Correct, yeah, Davis County is an average of the whole thing, so you're just a little bit above average, right, which half the county would be. Right.
But if we were pulled out of that, then Davis County's numbers would be lower.
Low.
A little bit,
yeah.
But what does that do? That helps us as we look at these crash reports and we look at the severity of the crashes. And so they've given us a few recommendations here. So for example, Main Street, Hillfield Road, right turn on red restrictions, leading pedestrian intervals. That's a newer concept that's being phased in. What that means is that instead of allowing the light to change for pedestrians and cars to go at the same time, you actually stop all of the vehicle traffic at the intersection and allow a pedestrian, leading pedestrian interval gives the pedestrians a slightly longer opening, so they get to start crossing before the cars get to start moving.
Good lead.
And surprise, it's showing a lot of promise. I'll be honest. It's one of those things that kind of sounds weird, but it's easier to see a pedestrian that's right in front of you than one that's off to the side of you, right? And so there's a lot of things that they're studying on that one because it is helping to lower the incidence of auto pedestrian crashes and incidences there. So. And then signal timings, right? There's things we can look at on all of those, and so as they've just kind of given us some suggestions to look at and take a look at. Even one here, they've noted that we had an accident here. We've actually implemented most of those items already with lighting and crosswalks and things like that. So just some good information for us as we move forward, as we're looking at safety improvements and working through things. And I can say too that there is a kind of a nationwide effort on safe street improvements, and it's called Safe Streets for All. Wasatch Front Regional Council actually has funding to do safety audits, and we have 2 roads in our city that are actually slated to have some road safety audits, so we'll have additional information that comes from those as we move forward. So, and then that's the end of the presentation. There is this Map Explorer if you want to click on that when you get into it and interact, so feel free to do that. But in a nutshell, that's what's in the Transportation Master Plan document that we have.
So let's say something like that right turn, I noticed off of I-15 on Antelope that those right turns are now restricted. Is that something that you guys can just turn on and just say, we're gonna try this out internally?
That one that's got the light on
Yeah.
it, yeah, I mean, that's a UDOT intersection, but those were installed because of the crash information that came from that, but we could either put those up, we could put up, signs that say no right on red, things like that. The challenge with the no right on red restriction is almost every time if you go to one of those intersections, you see people that ignore them. And so that's a tough one. It's almost, well, I can't speak for what Jeremy sees, but it's almost like there's a discussion nationwide to say, hey, is right turn on red even a good idea anymore? We should just stop everybody from doing
Yeah.
it. But there are a lot of places where it's
So is the
perfectly
first question when you
safe.
go out of state,
Yeah.
can you turn right on red?
Mhm.
And I guess that's why it was an and, where you right turn restriction and giving them the
Yeah.
increased
On your
time.
first couple of slides, you had, things were numbered. Is that what are they numbered for a reason? Like, this is the first one we're gonna do?
No,
The
the
projects.
projects are, yeah, that's a
Oh,
good
okay.
catch, Dave. The projects are not numbered by priority, they're just numbered to
They're just
identify them on
numbered
the
to
map.
identify.
They are put in priority based on the phase though, so phase one is the one that we would focus on for the next 10 years.
No, yeah, the ones that are in phase one are the ones you're gonna
Yes.
be looking at.
Yes, but no, they are not in
But they're
some
not.
kind of a
Okay.
seniority or a
Yeah.
priority order because
Yeah.
it is very fluid. A lot of these are based on projections to say, where do we think the most growth is gonna
Sure.
come from, where you
Ah,
can
good.
build the, you know.
And a lot of these are opportunity based as well, right? When a new development comes in and they have to build part of the road, like maybe that's an opportunity to do
Right.
something. Or if WFRC or UDOT get funding, that's maybe an opportunity for us to partner and do things. So, yeah, this is the next 10
Yeah,
years.
This is what
but-
we're doing, but hopefully we can do it
Right.
with other people helping.
Exactly.
Was the, I saw Rosewood up there, one of the, that's not Rosewood and Oak Hills by the temple, is it, or was that the other side of Rosewood?
I believe that
What's
was
that?
the other west side there, but.
Where you looking?
I didn't see it, I know we talked about it.
Oh, you mean that intersection right across from the temple?
Yeah, just right, yeah.
Yeah, right
We've had that
there.
gentleman, that gentleman's come in a few times.
That whole area.
Yeah,
I didn't
this
see it
this
really.
intersection there.
Yeah. What's nothing, we didn't see any, we have anything
Yeah,
there.
I think it's an intersection improvement maybe, is that what? we were looking
Well, we
at?
did it, we did do the improvement in the last, what, 5-7 years?
So that, we'll let you finish that, because my question was on 193 Hobbs Creek.
Fairfield and Rosewood.
Yeah, it's Fairfield Rosewood,
Yeah,
not the other
Fairfield
side.
and Rosewood, yeah, so they're talking about,
And we're still okay with Rosewood, and I know we wanted to wait until the temple was up and operating and to look at that and the
Yeah.
speed and the.
yeah, there's actually, I don't mean to speak ill, but, or not ill, but Mrs. Morgan passed away recently, and so we're assuming that that property may start to develop, and so we'll probably see more.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
We
Thank
can't
you.
speculate on that,
No.
but we've heard rumors and rumblings that that's what the plan has been for a long time.
Can we go up to 193 in Hobbs Creek?
Yes, that intersection right there, I know we've heard from residents about that. Obviously, that is a UDOT road and
Yeah.
UDOT-controlled signal. We have had conversations with them, they're aware of it, they're watching it. They do have their own metrics that they need to check and do, but it is one of those items that is on our list and also.
It doesn't have a light there, does it?
It does not now.
No.
While we're
Take your life
on
advice.
that topic,
Yeah.
I am happy that obviously we see all these plans and we know kind of what suggestions there are and whatnot, and also the crash data. I'm wondering if we can be more proactive as opposed to reactive. And again, I know you don't make the rules, and I don't either when it comes to roads. But I know that there's like a threshold of how many crashes have to happen, or not have to happen, but they look at that to determine if, you know, something rises up on the list. And I just, you know, have a prevention mind, and so it really is troubling that we have to wait until there are tragedies or, you know, any accident doesn't have to be a tragedy, but still, to have to wait until things happen when we know, like the people who drive there every day, you know the imminent dangers. So can you speak to that? Just what do we, is there anything that we can do to not have to wait to get to whatever that crash threshold is when we know there's a problem?
Yeah, and Jeremy can jump in on this, but we do follow the MUTCD, which is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That's the one that nationwide everybody uses, and in there, they've gone through and they've said there needs to be some kind of a standard, right? And so I don't disagree with you. It's tough to sit there and say, well, we gotta wait for somebody to get hurt before we do something. That's not what we're intending to do or what we try to do, but what we do try to have is a standard, objective way to say, does this rise to this certain level to where we need to look at something else? Because, you know, for example, we have places where people are insistent that they want a crosswalk. We go out there and there's two people that are trying to cross the road. So then we need to look at, well, is it safe to do that? Is it something that, because there's so many vehicles, it's not safe to do? And so there's these thresholds that say, this is what the traffic engineers have all looked at and kind of come up with is the standard to say, once it meets that threshold, then we can do something that will be effective, if that makes sense. And I don't know, Jeremy, is that?
Yeah, I
something
think
else
you
to
explained
add?
that really well, but I want to talk about a couple of things. One, your point is well taken, and that's a common sentiment across the nation. That's actually part of what's prompting this Safe Streets for All thing, and there is funding right now available for that, and you mentioned that you've got several road safety audits coming. Part of those road safety audits is they look at those specific corridors and they say, let's go through and see what are the issues here, let's be proactive about it, and let's address those now, okay? And so that is part of that idea, is to be proactive. I want to go back to the idea of these warrants, right? There's not a lot of things that are predicated on safety or crash warrants. Signals have a crash warrant. Pedestrian hybrid beacons have a crash warrant. But they also have others. They also have warrants on volume, right? So you may warrant a signal on volume long before you ever do it on crashes, right? So it's not that we're just waiting for someone to die or a crash to happen. It's when we hit these volumes, right? When the traffic volumes are high enough, we'll put in a signal. Or if there's a safety issue, we'll put in a signal. Or if there's something like that. So
it's an or, not an and?
correct. It's an or, not an and. Yeah. So that I guess that was my point. Is we're not just sitting back and waiting for those, right? There's other things that we look at as well, and then there are these Safe Streets for All and other things that are trying to be proactive on that safety side.
That's helpful, and I just would add that when we are looking at developments and whatnot, that with those projections, that could also help to aid. I mean, the volume may not be there yet, but if
Right.
there's a plan for there to be more volume,
Yeah.
then it's going to come, right? So that's
Absolutely.
just,
Right.
I
And you-
appreciate the or.
Yeah.
You had some of that on there.
We
Where
do.
You were,
yeah.
because you mentioned this area is gonna be developed now, and then you had like, I don't know if it was.
Yeah, we have new
light
signals
or
on here, new
signal.
things that
But
maybe
if
aren't
it's-
warranted yet, but will be.
If you're in, let's say you're in the next 10 years,
Mhm.
and you've got 15 items, so because they're not, their number means nothing, then they could be switched.
Yes, we move them all over.
You move them all
because
over, so
it's-
if you found something within that range, we might have a little say on,
Yes.
maybe we could start this because of what you're saying.
Yeah.
A little harder if they're down 20 years from now.
It's
You know.
really, there's, I don't wanna drag Clint into it, but there's some legalities there. If you put in a signal and somebody gets in an accident at a signal that wasn't warranted, there's actually been lawsuits over that because sometimes signals will actually
Sure.
increase the number of rear-end
Yeah.
crashes and things. And so there's a balance that we have to find where you can't, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's the world that we live in. And so
Yeah.
we have to get to a point where we can follow an objective standard that allows us to say, yes, we do need this because of X, Y, and Z. And then, to your point, there are traffic impact studies. We have that requirement, and so as a development comes in, they can't just say, well, I want to do this, and I don't care what happens around me. That's what the traffic impact studies specifically look at and say, yes, you're going to push this beyond where this road can handle X, Y, or Z. So these are the mitigations that have to be done, whether that's a signal, whether it's restriping, whether it's access restrictions, things like that.
Or no right turn.
Yeah, no right.
And, you know, we get it, you're doing what we're asking right now. You're trying to say this is gonna have a problem. Let's, if we can get ahead of the game. And some you have to come from behind.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let me, I know we've got some time for Weston we need to have. Tyson, you got a quick question?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of all of your arterial roads. I remembered Minor because I live adjacent to one.
Yeah.
But when Layton Parkway was built, for instance, I remember hearing that it's built to be a 4-lane, bigger. How many of our principal arterials are built big enough to restripe, reorganize the way the lanes are in order to increase flow safely?
So I would like to say all of them, but I know there are some in here that are not. But anything new that we build, we do build, let's say we build a half street or something, like Hillfield Road is a half width.
Yeah.
And then we can expand that to the full width. But for example, Layton Parkway, yeah, it is a road that we built to the full projected build-out width that we needed, and then we striped it at that 3-lane facility in order to, you know, help calm traffic and do some other things there until the volumes do increase. But looking at it, those would be identified in here as widening projects, if I can find the right map again. As you look at that, there's some of these that are widening, so like 2200 West, I don't know that that's an arterial per se, but any of the roads that would be identified as widening would be ones that were not just a restripe or something like that.
And that's one that's been on the list for a few years now, or several different studies, 2 different studies in there.
Yeah, it's getting close now.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
closer, yeah.
So kind of a thought I had when asking that question, I added the word safely because south of our southern border, there's a road 2200 north. On the west side, it's 4 lanes and it's to the curb. And it's a slower speed, but I really don't like it. And I'd hate to see something like, I don't know if we have something like that in our city, but I never use that right lane. Today was garbage day. I drove up it and there's garbage cans sitting 3 feet into the lane, and it's a concern of mine.
And that was 2 lanes, and there were bike lanes on both sides too. And all of a sudden, it's just lane, 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 all, no shoulder. It just, and then all of a sudden,
And
look what we've
then
done.
you're sharing the
In Kaysville,
lane,
too.
you're sharing
Yeah.
the lane as a cyclist with that full travel lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now there's just marks on it. Like your bike, we now, sure, I'm
It's a
sharing.
sharo.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
Well, and that's why I
like
asked the
raised
question
ones, though. I don't
earlier,
even like the
that
stripe.
can we designate those that we see?
You have handlebars.
Yeah, and those are all great questions that need to be
Over the
vetted with
overpass
each
by the
project that we're
railroad
doing and
tracks.
working on those.
Yeah.
But the intent is not to just come in and say, hey, you know what, we got bike lanes, and then because we need more room for cars, we're gonna just blow up the bike lanes, right? Those are the balances that we have to find, and we feel like those cross sections really help us have that flexibility to do what we need to do in those locations, so. So I'm gonna go through these other 2 a little bit quicker than that first one. That first one is kind of
Wait,
like the
there's
meat
more.
of the whole project, yeah.
Wait.
So what do we
Thought we
do?
had a long project.
What do we do to fund the growth that's coming towards us, right? And so the state has got what's called the Impact Fee Act, and in that, it allows us to charge impact fees to development that comes in and creates an impact on our system. So this Impact Fee Facilities Plan, it's called the IFFP, we call it, the abbreviations. It identifies the roadway improvements needed to accommodate this anticipated development. It's not for existing deficiencies, so if we've already got a road that's failing, we can't charge developers to make it not failing, but we can charge them for their impact on their growth portion of it. So only growth related. This is the Impact Fee Act code. If you guys want to go have some more light reading. Based on the Layton Transportation Master Plan, so what we just went through for travel demands, and the focus is on that 10-year capital improvements, and it doesn't include operations and maintenance, it's only for new construction growth things. And it's projects through 2034 that maintains the level of service D without burdening existing residents with that, but it includes widening the roads, restriping, and signals to accommodate this future growth, okay? So what does that mean for us? We anticipate that there will be another 122,000 average daily trips by 2034, additional trips that will come into the city as we grow. That's based on all the analysis that Jeremy and his group have helped us with at Wall Consulting Group. Obviously, the level of service D is what we're targeting in our definition. We have the ability to define our level of service. We've chosen to stay with the level of service D, which is the industry standard. If a development comes in and creates something that makes it less than a D, then they have to do improvements to it. So again, that's our goal. So as we're
Less
looking
than a
into
D,
that,
meaning E or F?
E or F,
Okay.
yes.
Can you go back a slide?
Yep.
So those additional daily trips, is there any data of like what roads they're estimated to be on? The main roads,
So that's that travel demand model. Remember how we showed the future volumes and that slider that showed when they were red or green? That's the travel demand model, and it shows where those trips are coming to and from, and then what the volumes on the road is.
And so it shows that if you develop, let's say up here at the top of Fairfield, you're gonna create trips up here, where would those trips go? If you develop out west, where those trips would need to go to get to where they're going. I'm not gonna try and read this slide here for you, but the top here, we've got 13 projects in that first phase one that are impact fee eligible. Total cost is $71 million. Is the estimated cost. Of that, 11.4 million is impact fee eligible. There's 12.9 million that with inflationary, you can put an inflator in there to capture the inflation costs that we're projecting. But so that's the key here, is that we have these roadway projects. There's what's called a cut-through percentage. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that, but what that basically says is if a trip starts outside of Layton City, then somebody drives through Layton City and goes somewhere else for Layton City, or outside of Layton City, and that trip ends, then we can't capture anything there, right? So Sandridge Parkway is the largest one there, obviously, which is basically 3700 West. That road has got a huge cut-through amount there, and so the collection on that is just something the city has to deal with there. But you can see there's UDOT funded projects on here, so we've got about $30 million that we're estimating would come from outside funding sources. Again, the 11.4 we could collect in impact fees, but if you do the math on that, that still leaves about $30 million that the city's going to have to come up with over the next 10 years to fund projects. Now, that's where a lot of discussion comes in about a transportation utility fee that's being had at the legislature, things like that, because we know that the gas taxes are not keeping up with what our needs are. And that's a different discussion for a different day, but there are some, beyond the 10-year window, there's the impact fee eligible costs there. So what we have to do as a city is, if we build these facilities, we have to fund them up front, and then we collect them as what's called a buy-in to that capacity that we've already built. And so it's not like it's totally lost, but it's money that has to be fronted up front, and then we collect that on a future impact fee analysis that we do. And you'll see that as we get into the next document where that comes into play for these projects. So these are the roadway projects. Then we have 14 projects that are intersection projects, a lot less money, 6.2 million. Of that, 3.8 million are impact fee eligible as well for that. So as you see that chart, again, you'll see the cut through, but then you'll see the impact fee eligible costs that in that chart that we can collect for this next 10-year window. And again, because these are signals, a lot of these are impact fee eligible. Quite a bit of them are impact fee eligible because they are directly related to the growth and the reason that it's there. And again, we've taken out the UDOT funded project because we can't collect impact fees on what we think that UDOT will be paying. So that's in a nutshell what the impact fee facilities plan does, is it gives us the list of all the projects that are impact fee or eligible for collection of impact fees. And then from there, we take that and we go into what's called the impact fee analysis. So this is part 3 of the 3 parts. Zions Bay Public Finance has done the analysis on this for us. They've taken the information from the Transportation Master Plan, the Impact Fee Facilities Plan, and they've calculated out what is the maximum eligible fee that we can charge for roadway projects and roadway improvements there. Again, it applies with the Impact Fees Act that we have. It's based on the Transportation Impact Fee Facilities Plan that Wall put together for us. It is based on the average daily traffic numbers that are estimated. Our previous impact fees have been based on PM peak traffic, and that's an important distinction that we need to talk with everybody about here, is that the previous way of doing this with PM peak traffic, you would have trip generations and they would only calculate how many trips you generated between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. And so if you were let's say a fast food restaurant and you have just a ton of traffic in that 4 to 6 p.m. time frame, you were paying maybe a higher fee than somebody who, let's say, has a lot of traffic, but it's only between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. And so we feel like it's better and more equitable a distribution to base it off of the average daily traffic that you have, and so that it kind of distributes it evenly and captures all of the traffic you're generating and not just traffic during a specific 2-hour window.
And usually that's the busiest time.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Jeremy,
I was just gonna give a couple examples of that, right? Like, coffee shops, they get hit really hard in the morning, right? And then not so much at 5 o'clock at night.
Right, yeah.
So their impact fee is very skewed if you do it just on the evening. Schools, hotels, things like that, so.
Just
Or
a-
new brunch spots that.
Yeah, brunch, yeah, for sure. So anyway, we feel like a lot of cities are going this way to just charge it based on the daily traffic rather than just the peak hour traffic.
So you
I think that's
charge,
right there.
I'm gonna ask you kind of an odd question now. You pour curb and gutter along its edges, okay? And then you come in with a group that says, well, we wanna build some homes here, but there's no access to the road, so they just cut it, right? And they pay for that.
Yes.
Okay, that's, anything they do in addition to what we do, they pay for.
Yes, so there's what's called project improvements and system improvements. And we're
Okay.
talking about system improvements. So project improvement is just what you described. That is whatever they have to have in order to build their subdivision and have it stand on its
Okay.
own. So if they have to put in an 8-inch water line, if they have to put in an 8-inch sewer,
Right.
those are project improvements. What we're saying is, you don't need an arterial road in front of your project in order to build a housing development. But
Right.
the city needs that arterial road, so you're
Right.
charged for what would have been a regular, 58-foot right-of-way road or 60-foot
Yeah.
right-of-way road, and then the impact fees make up the difference
The
there.
difference of it.
And you're paying a proportionate share of what that arterial
Yeah.
would cost. So, impact fees need to be spent or encumbered within 6 years after the impact fee is paid. We work closely with Tracy on that. He loves me because he gets to send reports to the state every year for what we do with our impact fees and what projects we spend them on. But that's an important part of this. You can't hoard impact fees and just keep collecting them forever and ever. If you don't spend them within that 6-year period, you have to give them back with interest to whoever paid them. So we make sure we spend our impact fees, and we need to spend our impact fees because of what we're
Have we
doing.
ever
we're
been in
doing.
that
Yeah.
situation?
No, we've never been in a situation where we can't spend them. Compared, and so also, we compared the current land uses with the ITE codes. So ITE is the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have a book that is a manual, it's called the Trip Generation Manual. So what it does is they go out and they do surveys of different types of land uses, and they say, well, this is the average trip that this type of use does. So a residential home or a coffee shop or a commercial dental building, or whatever they have. And so there's a lot of those codes, and so we've worked really hard. Mindy has worked really hard with the planning and zoning group to make sure that we're lining up those codes with what our impact fee or what our land uses are, so that we can get that correct, so that every person that comes into the city can say, yes, we may not want to pay these fees, but at least we feel like the fees are fair and objective to what the impacts truly are. And then the last component there is impact fees can be implemented 90 days following adoption by the city council. So what we would ask is that when we bring this back in 2 weeks for you guys to to look at and have the public hearing is that if you choose to adopt this, that then it would be adopted and then implementation of those fees wouldn't take effect for at least 90 days beyond that date. So let's talk a little bit about the details, and then I'm going to wrap up so Weston has his time to do what he needs to do. So the cost per trip in the calculation is $173.37. So I know that sounds like a really funny number, but that's the number in the calculation, and that's what the law says we have to do. So
Costco trip.
yeah. So the anticipated growth, so how do you get to that number? You take the cost of all of the projects that we have, and you add up what the impact fee eligibility is for those 10 years, and then you divide it by the anticipated growth, and that's how you come up with the number. But there is a component to it that we talk about here. The buy-in cost that we talked about, Dave, with that is because we have roads that are wider than they absolutely had to be, and we already built that capacity, then whoever comes in and is using up that capacity, they have to pay to help.
Right.
They have to help pay for what we've already spent. So that's where this buy-in cost comes in, and as we spend more, then we add that in on the next iteration and as we
Right.
update these. And then
Even
you've
though
got-
we built the road bigger, they still have to pay.
They're still helping to pay
because
for their
they're
growth.
filling it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New roadways is $105 of that. New intersections is about $35 of that. The consultant fee, that's the one nice thing in the law, because we have to do all of these consulting documents and everything like that. It's expensive, and so we actually get to collect that as part of the impact fee cost, even though it's only $1.21 per trip. And then because we do have a little bit of impact fee balance here, we have to give a fund balance credit based on the law, so they get $1 deduction per trip. So that's how we come up with the number. And then again, we're gonna send this to you so you can dive into it a little bit more, but this is the list of our proposed impact fees and the different code here. This is the ITE code I was talking about. So code 22 is actually airports and heliports, 110 is light industry. Anyway, we went through and we looked at and we said, hey, what are the possibilities? Some of these are already on our list, but others are not, and we wanted to make sure that as we've talked and we've seen things with Weston's group, what are the potential things that might come in? We wanted to have a number for it. So the way the math works here is you've got this ITE trip rate here, and then you've got what's called a pass-by trip, and that's a calculation in the ITE manual. Obviously, it's not on this page, but you can see a couple of them over here. What a pass-by trip is somebody who's going from, let's say, their home and they're going shopping to a supermarket, but then they stop at, say, a high turnover restaurant, or they stop at a gas station, so they really didn't, the trip didn't get generated from the gas station, it got generated by the grocery store that they passed through and went to. So that's what the pass-by is. And so then what that does is it adjusts the rate over in this column, and so you take this number up here times that, and this is the maximum proposed fee that you could be charged. So for example, single-family detached housing, 1,600. Yeah, I don't mean to make you guys do the math. I just want to make sure you know this is
lots of math.
This is how the number over here got calculated.
Yeah.
So for a single-family home, that's one that you'll ask, and a lot of these are actually dropping a little bit because we're not proposing to collect as much impact fees as we had in our last impact fee schedule that we have.
Why?
Because the projects are not calling for that. We've done a lot of building to get the capacities that we
Oh,
need. So,
okay.
so it's not because we don't want to, it's just
Right.
the analysis says this is what we need, and so that's all we're proposing to
Yeah,
collect.
you actually have a little bit fewer projects this time around than you did last time,
Yeah.
because you've already built a lot of those, so.
Do you have the difference between those fees? So like what they were, or what they are currently versus what these new proposed fees?
But we don't have them here tonight, but we can send those to you. The one caveat we gotta understand is that the current fees are based on a PM peak, and so they're gonna be kind of comparing apples and oranges, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But so one there is $1,600 is lower than, I think the current one is like $2,400 that we're charging for a single family. And the reason that one's kind of a good metric is because that's the one that a lot of people compare, this is what an equivalent
Sure.
residential unit is. But so we've got hotels, health clubs, elementary schools, hospitals. I'm not gonna read them all, but they're all here as you guys look at them. And then the unit here, that matters. So for example, the ITE manual says that for every 1,000 square feet of gross floor area in a general office building, you would generate 10.84 trips, and so that's how we would calculate those fees for people, is based on the gross square foot floor area that they have. So with that, that's my last slide. You guys will be, I'll send these out to you. I'll send you the actual documents, and then you'll have the web address of this story map for you guys to look at. But I think hopefully we've kind of
That's a lot of
dumped it all on you
information.
now, but feel free to check it out, look at it. If you have any questions, you can email myself, Mindy, Bryant, any of us, and we'll get you whatever answers we can. And then all of this same information will be in the packet for the 2nd of October, but we're not gonna wait till the 2nd of October to send it to you, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
gonna call Mindy, so it'll save us
Yeah,
a phone call.
yeah, just give it to me, so.
Is there a state law that dictates how often these are updated?
There's not a state law that dictates how often they're updated. However, we do know of one city that does it every single year. It's, in my opinion, it's a ton of work, but it's also, nice that they can do that. We haven't got to that point, but it's kind of we've only got 10 years worth of projects, and so if we start
Right.
missing those and we wait 5 years and then we're not updating them, we end up not being able to collect the impact fee money, and then we have to come up with that in its place. All right, thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to Weston now, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
Jeremy, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for the confusion.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So, before you tonight is a text amendment that has really been brought because of the innovative dance business. If you guys remember that earlier this spring, there was a business license that was applied for, went through the process. It was a lengthy process. There were some communication concerns back and forth. Eventually, we denied the business license because they didn't meet the L4 limitation. They're a dance studio and in the industrial area, and that limitation basically states that there are specific uses, such as dance studios, that can operate in the industrial zone, but only can occupy 40% of that building. There was already a use within that building that was occupying, that had met that 40%, and so they didn't meet the criteria. And even if that other user wasn't there, they were taking up such a large space, they wouldn't have been permitted to operate there anyway. They requested a hearing, a business license hearing, to have that decision relooked at. We relooked at it and again said it met code, the decision met code, and that the business license could not be approved. However, we did, from a staff's perspective, we looked at it and said, there are some avenues here that I think we can explore that can facilitate these uses. And so one of the things that we identified is that the corridor they're on Hillfield, but either the Hillfield corridor or the Gordon Avenue corridor that are within that industrial park area, they really function really well as a flex space that transitions from residential into our commercial spaces. And we just initially took a blush and said, is there a way that we can address this that would facilitate not just them operating there, but functionally other sports facility type uses. And so staff did a significant amount of research and identified that these actually two areas are areas that we frequently see a broad range of fitness, sports type uses. And so what we did, and I'll go through the details here, but the proposed changes really are tied down to these three things. So the exception is to allow athletic uses within the M2 zone when it's within 275 feet of an arterial roadway. It creates a definition for athletic centers, sports facility, and studio health land uses, and updates the land use regulation tables to clarify what these are. So when we looked at it, we really identified, we took the 18 years worth of history, and 18 really is just tied to how long we've had digital business licensing records. So we looked at those and pulled a lot of the businesses and said, out of these uses, where are these facilities locating? And they are evenly spread through throughout the city. But in these industrial parks, we have seen more of an increase of users coming to the industrial areas. And so we want to make sure that there's still a healthy balance between our industrial use, but still allowing these facilities to operate. And so we identified 3 areas. Really, we wanted to clarify further what is an athletic center. And so we've reclassified that to really kind of call out your Vosses and your Gold's Gyms, these big, large gym facilities. And then we've looked at sports facility complexes. We've had soccer facilities come in. We've had pickleball court facilities come in that offer, although they're 15,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet areas, they're definitely on a smaller scale than your 100,000 square foot athletic center. And then there's the studio fitness, where you've got a dance studio, a gym. They fit a niche, and they typically are smaller, either smaller in scale, sometimes they're 10,000 square feet, or there's just one of them. So they may take up a larger space, but it's just gonna be them. They're not some big, national brand that's coming through. They're focused on a very niche product. And so these are the 3 main users that we've seen come in these areas. And then this is just the land use table that breaks it down, how those are called out. And so what the recommendation is just that, and this is showing you Gordon Avenue, basically within these corridors in the M2 zone, these buildings would be allowed to have 100% of those uses that we just talked about. Now, there's about, I think about 8 uses, and I'll have to go back and look at my numbers, but there's about 8 uses that have come and gone within these areas. There's a dance studio here, and I think another gym over here right now. So there's just 2 uses right now. And there's, this is the building that we're mainly talking about that had the gym facility, or the dance studio. There's a gym here and the dance studio. And there's been a karate studio that's actively here, and that's currently what's there. So it's not filling the space with these uses, but we do want to make sure that we accommodate them. One of the things that we looked at is that while these uses are great throughout the city, and there is space to have them throughout the city, filling a lot of our retail uses with just them, and currently that's what our ordinance does, is basically pushes them to retail, is we're using potentially retail square footage for use that's not, inherently retail. And so while those uses can still operate there, we wanted to create an opportunity that would allow users to get some more square footage in corridors that make sense.
I got a question.
Yeah.
On the studio definition, is that also where gymnastics would fall in?
Yeah.
I've got a couple questions when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
What about, you also see in industrial zones around the axe throwing, or archery stuff, or, that's not part of the definition.
It's not.
But-
We would classify as indoor entertainment,
Okay.
indoor amusement.
And that's not, even though you see them.
You do see them. And they would be allowed, and I'd have to check, and I can before our next meeting to see if that's listed as an L4 limitation, but we do have a caveat for that specific use.
There's one typo.
Yes.
On the studio definition. It says heat instead of home.
It sure does.
No, that's
That's
a
all.
Heath studio.
It's a Heath
No, you
studio.
don't get candy bars, I go.
We'll get that corrected.
My other question was, you mentioned with the applicant and the business license, were they, and I think you've mentioned this before, they just stayed in business without a license,
They
is that
did.
true? And how did that
Right.
process go, and why do we allow that, and is that proper, and talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they applied last August for a business license. Typically, what happens is they'll get a review through email, and that review would come through Jeff, who's usually the planner that's reviewing business licensing. He asked several questions and said, hey, based on how you presented this, it doesn't meet code. Can you answer these questions? He then sent that email a total of 3 times up until January, February, the following months. And we finally heard back from them. They expressed that they never saw the emails. I made sure that the system did send them out. We had some clarification information in our emails to make sure that hopefully people are catching that information. But their response was, we thought everything was okay, and we just kept moving forward. But they hadn't paid for a license, they hadn't heard from us, and so they invested a significant amount of money in the property, and just kept moving forward. And so when they were denied, it was a big blow for them.
But,
Kept moving forward, you mean they just kept
They just kept operating.
kept operating business without a license in the
Right.
city?
Yeah.
so do they retroly pay for a business license?
They would, if this passes, they would go back and pay for the last year that they were there.
Are they paying for the time they are now?
They do not have an active business license.
I don't get it.
Yeah, so it's,
So why do we have business licenses?
right, and so part of this is, we did tell, they submitted an application, a zoning application to amend this code, and we did tell them that we'd work with them while we were processing this application. So they do know that if this doesn't go through, they would need to vacate that space. And it would get turned over to code enforcement at that time. Well, really legal at that point.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, when this was brought up,
Long time ago.
yeah, but because they were not the owners of the building, there was a lot of discussion between the actual owner that leased it to them
Mhm.
and, city, our staff. And then I believe there was, I don't know if it was a letter or an email, but what you just mentioned that basically said that they could continue operating while things are being worked out.
Yep.
Because the owner of this business didn't have the authority to make, to do
Oh,
a
yeah,
request
sure.
for different things because they didn't own the property.
And we have been working with the business owner and the property owner so that they're both very well aware of where we're at. So whatever decision occurs, they'll make the proper adjustment. So if it doesn't pass, then the building owner knows that to make sure he expresses clearly to the tenants that they need to meet that L4 limitation.
And had this been sitting vacant before the tent studio?
It had been
came in?
sitting vacant for about 9 months. And that was the other caveat is that, what's been expressed to us, and we have seen this, which is these flex spaces often have a hard time filling true industrial. If you go down that corridor, there's some industrial stuff there. There's also some flex stuff. There's a lighting salesperson. There's a skate shop that has some warehouse stuff, but there's some retail up front.
Is it still
So-
there?
Yeah, it is.
50/50 still there?
I don't know if it's called 50/50, but I was just down there and there's a skate shop there.
Huh,
Yeah, it's still there.
long time.
Yeah.
So, your initial concern was that we don't wanna lose retail. That was kind of the way it was set up in the beginning, right? We didn't consider this retail. No? Am I missing something?
It's classified as a retail use, yes.
Yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
now.
Yeah,
But previously, you wanted retail in there, and for whatever reason,
Industrial.
Industrial, yes, thank you. And so now what we're saying is, they kind of fit in there. We're not worried about them expanding to the point where they take up everything.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it
so-
is fairly evenly spread throughout the city.
Right, and it allows them to do things, how do I say it? I don't wanna say it right, but to be a little bigger than what we.
Yeah, it broadens their opportunities.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's.
So what other areas of town would this apply to though? If that's something.
It's really these two sections. So this is Gordon Avenue and the industrial zoning area around that. And then Hillfield Road and the industrial zoning around that. Specifically because it's M2 zone along an arterial roadway, and these are our two areas that meet
That's
that
the only two.
criteria. Yeah.
Got it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Good.
questions?
Thank you.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, you guys. That's our last item on the work meeting, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we'll move in a second. I'm gonna acknowledge
Then
it,
I
and
also,
we're good.
Wes,
Yes, sir.
I need to ask you a question.
Online.
You got it.
It's not
I'd like to welcome everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting this evening. It's September 18th, and we appreciate this many folks in our audience tonight. This is awesome. So with that, it's customary for us to always start our meetings with a prayer and a pledge. And tonight, Councilmember Clint Morris is going to lead us.
Thank you, Mayor. I will offer a prayer, and then afterwards, if you'll rise with me, we'll repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful this evening to meet as a city, grateful for our founding documents and for the ability to be self-governed. we're grateful for the rights that thou hast given us and the ability to protect those. We ask that thou would please be with us this evening and grant us wisdom as we make decisions. We bless those, ask that thou would bless those here in attendance as well with safety, and we're grateful that they are here. We're grateful for all of the city employees who help to make our community what it is, and we are grateful for them. And these things I say and we ask and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Councilman. Okay, Council, we'll go ahead and get this meeting started. And as you can see by the agenda, we have several sets of minutes that need to be adopted. So I'll ask first if anybody had any corrections on those. Okay, seeing that there was no corrections, then I would ask that one of you please make a motion and state the date, well, the meeting and the date, if you could, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve minutes of Layton City Council meeting May 1st, 2025, City Council meeting May 15th, 2025, City Council work meeting August 7th, 2025, Council meeting August 7th, 2025, work meeting August 21st, 2025, Council meeting August 21st, 2025, special work meeting August 26th, 2025, work meeting September 4th, 2025, and council meeting September 4th, 2025.
Very good. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt the minutes as written. Kim, thank you very much. That's a big list of minutes there. So with that, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our municipal announcements tonight. And so any council member which has any information they'd like to share with our citizens, you're welcome to do so at this time.
This just in.
I love it.
So Parks and Rec Department has been working very hard, as they do always, to keep great recreation opportunities for our families, for our all of our citizens. Coming up next month, October 17th at 6 p.m., 6 to 8:30 p.m., I believe, will be the Halloween Bash. Always a good event, lots of Halloween games, costume contests, food. Also, Whispers in the Dark will be the next day on October 18th, and we'll have more info on that coming in our coming meetings. So.
Yeah, that will be, I think, put on by the Davis Arts Council, and he'll be out here in the park. Well, in the amphitheater this time, actually. Okay. Yeah. So, anyway, that's going to be a fun event.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other events coming on up, which. Okay, I'll let everybody else speak first. Go ahead. The what? You guys can.
Thanks, Mayor.
I speak enough, so that's why I'd like to include everyone.
So September and October present lots of opportunities for Layton residents to get together and hang out and do fun things. So on the 24th of September, the fire department is having their annual open house, and that's going to be out at the Kendall O'Brien Fire Prevention Open House. It'll be out at the fire station on 2200 West. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. Lots of cool things for the kiddos as well as for the adults to participate in and to see. We also have some partnerships that we do with our Layton Communities That Care.
And actually tonight, we had our Strengthening Families class, which is for parents and youth, ages 10 to 14, starting. It's a 6-week program. We also have a prevention week for communities that care. October 6th is family dinner night. This is in conjunction not just with Layton CTC, but the other Davis County CTCs as well, so North Davis and South Davis. And this is a free family dinner. There will be games, also a magician. This is going to be in Pioneer Park in Kaysville, but it is free. And then October 7th and 8th, there are a couple of workshops that are also free to the community. And then I want to highlight again the Born to Succeed Youth Summit. This is a summit that's for youth in grades 9 through 12 in Davis County. It's free. It will be held on Saturday, October 11th at North Davis Junior High, and it'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, this is a free program, and one thing I want to highlight is that the inspirational speaker is going to be Braxton Nielsen. I see Carlene in the audience. She and I go to Bryce Canyon for Communities That Care Prevention Coalition summits, and Braxton came and spoke to us this past summer, and he was a champion bull rider from our northern Utah area, had some setbacks, and he now is he's a speaker. He goes around and talks to not just young people, but adults as well, and he's got a really great story, a great program. So that is free. And then the last thing I will mention is the Circle of Security parenting class will be at Heritage Elementary starting on October 22nd. That'll be on Wednesdays. All of these are free. You can look at the Layton Communities That Care Facebook page, or you can go to dbhutah.org, which is the Davis Behavioral Health website. That's it.
Perfect. Okay. Anyone else? If not, I'll go ahead and mention one more item that I think is one of those opportunities to kind of really show your respect and appreciation for those that fought in the Vietnam Wall. This year marks their 50th anniversary, and so in doing so, the Vietnam veterans are going to have a special walk. They haven't had one before, but they're going to start down here at the library and then end up at the wall, and it's going to be on Saturday, September 27th at 9 a.m. So I would love for everyone to just come out and just kind of line the streets and kind of show your respect, and then certainly gather with them up at the wall. And this is just, like I said, it's to commemorate their 50th anniversary of that conflict. And then, of course, in November, please come out for their parade. So with that, Council, if there's no other announcements, we'll go ahead and go down to our verbal petitions and presentations, and this is it's an inspiring yet sometimes very emotional and yet at the same time rewarding portion of our meeting. And as a governing body, we do like to acknowledge all those folks that we possibly can that really deserve this type of recognition. So to start out with, I'd like to turn the time over to Lieutenant Bobowski and Sergeant Lewis, or Sean Lewis, if you wouldn't mind coming up and making a presentation in, like I said, sometimes this is a hard time for us, but to make a presentation honoring one of our crossing guards. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not exactly sure where to look, so I'll just kind of look all over the place. And I typed this up and put it in big letters. Still need these, so I apologize about that. Good evening. I'm Sean Lewis. Thank you for the promotion, Mayor. I'll expect that in the paycheck.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
I'm not a sergeant. But I am the crossing guard supervisor for the Layton Police Department. This is my Lieutenant Clint Bobrowski. And I just wanted to say a couple things. I'm also very happy to see so many people here, a lot of the family members of who I'm about to speak. And it does kind of warm the heart to see that. On January 28th of this year, we lost a good man who was killed while performing his duties as a crossing guard. Steve Wynn had been a guard since 2022. working daily to ensure the safety of the children who crossed Main Street towards Bayview Elementary. Steve was loved by the children that he crossed, the Bayview community, both the neighborhood and the school, other crossing guards, and the members of the Layton Police Department. I was honored to know him and to be his supervisor. Steve's smile and his pleasant demeanor was contagious, and he brightened each day with his humor and his stories. The effect that Steve's death had on this community was great, surpassed only by the effect that his life had on the community. And it's the latter that we choose to remember and to memorialize. Irene, do you want to step up? Okay, thank you. In celebration of Steve's honorable and dedicated service to Layton City, and on behalf of Mayor Petro, this council, the Layton City administrative staff, and those of us within the public safety community, I'm honored to provide Steve's wife and family with this plaque, a duplicate of which hangs in the hall outside this chamber for all to see. We hope that this gesture adequately portrays the gratitude we share for Steve and his service, and that it helps keep Steve's memory and ultimate sacrifice in the hearts of those he served. Thank you. Thank
I was
you.
going to say, ma'am,
Do you want her to come up here?
I think the council would like to come down and show our appreciation as well. Yeah. Thank you. That was a hard one. It was a hard when it happened, and it's still hard today. So our hearts are with the family, and thank you all for being here to show that type of support. Okay. Now we'll move on to a little bit different type of acknowledgement and presentation, and this one is one that we like to do each year. And that is to acknowledge our youth court graduation, and then, of course, swearing in our new members. So with that, as pointed out earlier, we have Carlene Kidman, who's their advisor. So Carlene, if you'd like to come up and, do your thing, because you do it so well, and nobody else can top it.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, family, and everyone else. This is our 28th year. And so we've been going for 28 years, and so I'm feeling really old, and I'm going to embarrass somebody because one of our youth from our very first year is here,
Yes.
and two of his children are part of youth court. So thank you for your service, and especially sharing your youth with us. So it makes me feel really old that I knew him when he was that age. But anyway, this last year, we had a phenomenal year. We received 142 cases.
Whew.
And so we have been really, really busy. And these kids are remarkable. We completed 96% of those cases, and I can tell you the ones that didn't complete, why they didn't. But, we tried. And so we're not 100%, but we're still 96. That's pretty good. I don't think very many programs can compete that way. This year, since August until last night, we have received 32 cases. So we have been running 3 panels a week, and these kids are phenomenal. And so you see our numbers are small. We do have like 25 kids that are trained and come as much as they can. Wednesdays are hard because Thursdays are hard for them to come. They take Wednesdays off. But the youth did do over 1,767 hours last year, with another 373 hours of training. So they are remarkable, and I just want to thank them because they're the program is because of them and because of you guys, your support. So thank you that we're still going strong after 28 years, and so I hope we continue for several more. So with that, if it's okay, I'll read them. I have a certificate, and they'll come up, get it, and then you guys go through around here and shake hands, and then come and behind the table, on that side of the table. We have a joke on where the table is when they're sitting up there. And then they'll swear you in and stuff, okay? Does that work? Okay, so they're new ones. Allison, come on, you give me first. Okay. Amita. Yay. Giselle. Oops, there we go. Ellie didn't come. Issa isn't here. Jacob lives in Morgan, and he comes down every week to be part of Layton Youth Court, so he couldn't come. Caleb couldn't get off work. So then Lila. We have a couple adults that come and help when they can too, and so we give them out. We're giving them out instead of, graduation stuff. We give them out a pin. So I just want to thank Heather. I don't look that look. For she comes out, and she actually hung out with all of us for 2 years now. Here's one of your pin. At our conference and helped drive. So we really appreciate her hanging out with all. You can go up there. You gotta come up there. And then I'll let her come around again, and she can get her one for her daughter, Caitlin, who's just finished her 6th year with us. But Caitlin's not feeling well tonight, so we'll let her. Okay, now you can come and get Caitlin's. I didn't want to do it together. And Caitlin has finished 6 years with us, and she's phenomenal. So, and then some of the others that have been here for a year. Ben, he just had surgery a couple weeks ago, so he's still recovering, so we excused him. Luke, Betsy, Porter, I'll read their names. Reese, Simone. Most of them couldn't get off work. So then, okay, Savannah. And Savannah is going to be our vice president next year. She's been our chief secretary this year, and now she's going to be our vice president. Delaney couldn't get off. Callie must not have been able to get off work. Austin just did finished his 3rd year. He had his wisdom teeth out today, so we excused him from being here. And so he will be back. And then last but not, and Austin's going to be a co-president next year. He's been vice president. Last but not least is Nat. He's just finished his 2nd year. Nat has been our president and our historian, and this year he's going to continue next year be a co-president for us. So I appreciate all the support you guys do. We couldn't do what we do without you guys, so thank you.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Congratulations.
And can we be excused? if that's
Yes.
okay? No?
Hey, I trump here, yes. These kids,
she trumps everything I
spend
do.
every Wednesday night here, and they put in numerous hours, so yes.
You bet.
We
Can I-
appreciate everything you do and for doing the hard part, and that's judging your peers.
Can I say
But-
one thing?
The proof, yes, you will.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the proof in this program is the fact that we keep it going is because of your success. You, as a governing body against your peers, is what's really made the success of this program. So we all do appreciate that. So yes, Councilman Thomas.
Oh, wow. I just got older. I keep hearing about the deadbeats that are out there, the kids that are deadbeats. I look at you guys and you're not deadbeats. I applaud you more than I can clap loud enough that you are doing things that many of the youth evidently aren't doing. And I just think it's neat that you do. I never, I mean, because of you, we hear you every year for 27 years, now 28. And what a great thing you're doing, and the thing that is touching to me, you don't know, and maybe you never will know, the lives that you touch and the things that you do by what you're doing here. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it?
You can leave now.
Thank you very much. Did you want to say something? Okay. 'Cause I was going to say. No. So anyway, thank you everyone once again for being here, and we'll continue on to our last item under our verbal petitions. But I guess I should say that certainly on behalf of the family, I mean, we appreciate you guys being here, but don't feel like you have to stay either. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our proclamation, which is to acknowledge National Service Dog Month. And I'll just go ahead and read this so that everyone knows that as a city we do acknowledge them. So, whereas the City of Layton recognizes the profound impact that service dogs have on the lives of individuals and the disabilities, enhancing their independence, mobility, and quality of life. And whereas approximately 70 million adults in the United States live with a disability, representing 27% of the adult population and approximately 7.5 million children representing, and over 15% of juveniles in the United States have a disability. That's an eye-opener. And whereas the United States is home to an estimated 500,000 service dogs who play a crucial role in assisting individuals with disabilities, including those with mobility impairment, visual and hearing impairments, autism, epilepsy, diabetes, and post-traumatic stress disorder, among others, by providing vital support, companionship, and a sense of security. And whereas National Security Dog Month provides an opportunity to raise awareness about the about the incredible contributions of service dogs, honors the dedicated individuals who train and care for those remarkable animals, and celebrate the profound bond between service dogs and individuals they serve. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Joy Petrel, Mayor of Layton City, in the state of Utah, along with the Layton City Council, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as National Security Dog Month, and encourages citizens to be respectful of the rights and safety of those in our community, afforded to the adults, children, veterans, and their service dogs who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. I cause this to be placed on the seal of Layton Utah, to be affixed on this 18th day of September 2025. So that pretty much concludes all of our verbal petitions at this time. So now we'll turn it over to kind of one of our important parts of our meeting, and one that we also enjoy, and that is any citizens' comments. So if there's anyone here in the audience that's wished to address us, you're please welcome to do so. You can step up to the podium, just state your name, and then if you're speaking on one item, if you could, please limit it to 3 minutes. But just also know that we will not get into a dialogue, but certainly we'll take all the information and make sure we get back to you or take whatever action necessary. So the time is now yours for citizen comments. Okay, being that there's none, let's go ahead and go on to our consent item. Tonight we have one item that will be presented, and this is going to be by Mr. Dave Price, and it's in recognition and authorizing the approval of a Layton, Utah 2025 Community Committee.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This evening I have the great opportunity to present Resolution 2546. If approved, this resolution will recognize and approve the creation of Layton, Utah 250 Community Committee. The United States Semi-Quincentennial Commission was established by Congress in 2016 to plan and orchestrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence of the United States. Governor Spencer J. Cox and the Utah State Legislature created the America 250 Utah Commission, called America 250 Utah. The mission of the America 250 Utah is to commemorate, celebrate, and reflect on our nation's past, build community, and look forward to the future by educating, engaging, and uniting Utahns and visitors to our city and state. Layton City desires to create a committee of residents and staff to help advise and create activities and events that will engage and educate our residents on the historic value and importance of 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The creation of this committee, along with the appropriate application to America 250 Utah, will allow Layton City to apply for grants, assist with this effort to advertise Layton's activities along with the state and other local events, partner with America 250 Utah, and utilize its logo. This committee will be created with the following charter members: Mayor Joy Petro, Kelly Brunson, Lamont Hamilton, April Parker, Pamela Petroff, Austin Green, Kimberly Zigmont, Joellen Grandy, Gabriella Bridges, Josie Newbolt, and myself. This committee will work with the mayor and council and staff to create activities and opportunities to join together to learn about and to celebrate this milestone for our country. Staff recommends that the council adopt Resolution 2546 to recognize and authorize the approval of the Layton, Utah 250 Community Committee to advise the City Council on ways to commemorate and celebrate America's 250th anniversary. Any questions this evening?
Go ahead.
Just one. On your sheet, the last name, put Dave Price, don't put myself. So when they print it, we kind of know who it was.
I could put either, and they'll still get me mixed up with you, Dave.
Okay, council, do you have any questions on it?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, being that we only had one item tonight, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council for action regarding Resolution 25-46.
Mayor, I make a motion that we we adopt Resolution 25-46.
Okay, it's been moved in second. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to our public hearing portion of our meeting. And with that, we've got two items. We'll go ahead and start out. Weston Apolloni is going to present both items for us tonight. So we'll start out with the first one, which is the Layton Park Plaza condominium.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There we go. Before you tonight is a condominium plat amendment. The applicant is David Felt, representing Snow Creek Management LLC and the Association of Unit Owners of Layton Park Plaza Condominium. They're requesting an amendment to the Layton Park Plaza Condominium subdivision, which is located in the MU zone. You can identify the MU in that pinkish purpley color. To the northeast and and adjacent is R18 single-family zoning, which is the yellow, and CP2 zoning, which is commercial zoning, which is the red. The amendment involves combining or enclosing a walkway that is owned by the Association of Unit Owners, which is classified as common space. This is what the amendment would end up looking like, and this identifies the hallway that's being enclosed. The purpose of combining the walkway with Unit 9 is to allow for an existing tenant of the building to expand their business into the enclosed area. The removal of the walkway does not restrict access to any of the other users of the building. On August 26, 2025, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the council approve the amended plat for Layton Park Plaza Condominium. Second amendment, subject to meeting all city requirements outlined in staff memorandum. Staff supports the recommendation of the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, council, questions?
They're going to enclose it?
Yeah, it'll just...
So when it's done, it'll look like part of the building?
Part of the unit, yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's already enclosed. It's just going to be, instead of a hallway, it'll be a part of Unit 9.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So it's currently an enclosed hallway, and is there any area of that open to the outside, like the roof, the ceiling? Is it windows or anything? It's just...
No.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty simple. Anything else? Okay. Seeing that there's none, we can go ahead and open up the public comment portion now, or open up for public comment regarding this item. I'd need a motion from the council.
Madam Mayor, I move that we open the public hearing for the... Can I just open it?
Yes.
For everything? Okay. I move that we open the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you have it. So if anyone, once again, is here to speak on this item or wish to elaborate any more, then you're more than welcome to step up to the mic. Okay, being that there's none, council, I'll bring it back to you. We do not need to close the public hearing, but let's go ahead and take action on this item, and then we'll move on to the second item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the amended plat for Layton Park Plaza, Second Amendment.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Being that this is a public hearing, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote on this. We'll start out with Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
That was an aye?
Aye, sorry.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Councilmember Smith Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Bloxon?
Yes.
And Councilman Roberts?
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. That passes unanimously. We'll now go on to item number B of our public hearing portion, which is to amend the Layton City Municipal Code. So with that, Weston, do you want to go ahead and
Thank you again,
take
Mayor.
over?
Before you tonight is a text amendment to amend the zoning code. The city has received a petition from Trevor Thomas, who is one of the owners of Innovative Dance. The applicant is requesting to amend the Municipal Code 1906-170, commercial uses in the manufacturing zoning district, to allow Innovative Dance to obtain a business license at 1435 West Hillfield Road. On April 7th, 2025, the applicant's business license application for the dance studio was denied because the property located within the M2 heavy manufacturing industrial zoning district already contained an existing commercial use subject to the L4 limitation, which states no more than 40% of the total interior building area of the development site shall occupy uses listed in the Table 6.2 as L4. The existing, to allow for reasonable development of these athletic uses and to address the application that came before us, staff took a look and identified some reasonable standards that could be applied, and that's what's before you tonight. The text amendment would allow these three main criteria, which was an exemption for athletic uses located in the M2 zone within 275 feet of an arterial roadway. It would create definitions for an athletic center and sports facility, studio, health, land uses, and update the land use regulation table to state what the where the land uses are permitted. The new exemption to the limitations are to the L4 criteria and would allow this business to operate as well as other businesses that are in similar fashion. The target allowance supports increased development of the athletic uses in the M2 industrial zone along arterial corridors, such uses where such uses are appropriate and accessible to nearby residential areas. At the same time, it preserves the majority of industrial districts, the industrial district areas for traditional industrial uses. The draft ordinance before you tonight is really intended to create and provide flexibility for athletic-related commercial uses while maintaining and preserving the industrial health of the city. The Planning Commission reviewed this on, if I can get my page to turn, August 26th, 2025, and voted unanimously to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to adopt the proposed amendments in Title 19 zoning, Chapter 19.02 definitions, and Chapter 19.06 land use regulation as proposed. Staff supports the recommendation of the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Okay, council?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, Weston. I was trying to find it in my notes, but it looks like there is the business owner requested that the space be, let me start over. The business owner requested that there be an opportunity to use up to 70% of these types of locations for the stated new uses, the definitions that you've outlined, and it looks like staff has chosen to allow up to 100%. Can you just explain the reasoning and why you were willing to go even higher than what the applicant was looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually just more of a different thought process. So how it currently is drafted in the ordinance is that it's 40% of the development site, and staff has interpreted that development site as an existing building. And so what the request from the applicant is 70% of a development site, and then to reclassify a development site as a development area that's constructed by one person, irregardless of phasing and necessarily when the buildings are built and lot splits. That becomes really hard for staff to manage, especially over years and years and years of time, not knowing when buildings came and went and what they were built with. And so when we looked at it, we said that's really difficult for us to manage, but what we could manage is a standard that did a similar thing and limited it in the areas that we're mostly concerned about, but allow those uses to still operate. So we feel like it does what they're looking for and what we feel like is functional, but makes it easier for staff to regulate.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bloxham?
Yeah, a few questions, Weston. Can you, we had a previous text amendment a little while ago that came in similar circumstances where the business was, non-conforming in some way. There was a text amendment that was proffered and we actually denied it because staff was not recommending it because of some consequences beyond that specific area. Here we have a situation where kind of a similar situation. Can you tell me and maybe just explain to the public why you think this one is different and distinct than the previous one that was rejected?
Yeah, absolutely. So staff takes a holistic view of these. While inherently the business is a great thing. We want to make sure that the regulations applied evenly and that there's a balanced approach. And so we looked at 18 years worth of history on the business licenses. We identified where they were coming in, where they were spreading out throughout the city, and we identified that there are a number of these that are taking retail spaces, and not that that's a bad thing inherently, but these are industrial spaces that really function as flex spaces where these users really would work well preserving some of our retail use. And so if there's an opportunity, and this business actually is a good example where they actually were in a retail space before and moved to industrial space because they needed more flex space. That's a great opportunity for us to get another retail user in. So we identified that as a really good positive. Another positive is that these corridors really bridge the gap from the residential to the commercial, and they don't fully function as 100% industrial. They function as flex use. They were built as flex use. And so we feel like amending this code is really mirroring how the buildings were intended to be used in the first place.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that. And can you talk to me a little bit about the communication that, once the denial and I guess the appeal process, and we had the letter that was dated in June, can you talk to me about what the city's communication was with the purported business applicant about their ability to continue to do business without a business license within the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will state that once they identified that they were operating without a license, they were very cooperative and have been trying to come into compliance, and that is why they submitted a text amendment. And as part of that communication, we told them with the submittal of a text amendment, we would not pursue any charges or pushing them out of the space until there was a resolution with the council on this text amendment.
Okay.
And so we're waiting on that.
Appreciate that. Just so that, there's not an understanding that business licenses are just voluntary, that we just kind of don't really care about them. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the ability to not, dig your heels in as a staff and not just say, well, that's what the ordinance says, deal with it. Because I to your point, I think that the ordinance that you've outlined here in the text amendment, I think, is a nice way of reimagining what this space could look like. And you're mentioning of taking areas that potentially could be taking up retail space we have in other areas, and that this is really only focused on an area on Gordon and an area on Hillfield. So it's not necessarily going to spread throughout the city where we have all these, businesses taking advantage of industrial spaces. So I just kudos to you and your team for being willing to think outside the box and being willing to change things to make business more, accessible in the city. So I just appreciate that. And thanks for the answers to my questions.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Councilman Morris?
Thanks, Mayor. Weston, could you show just for the benefit of, Councilman Bloxham mentioned the corridors. Yeah, that's
So
what we're
this is
talking
along
about.
Gordon Avenue in the industrial area, and then this is along Hillfield. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, thank you. I just wanted to
Yeah.
see those two.
Thank you.
And I as well want to let the staff know that this is what we do. We try to find ways to say yes, not ways to say no. That's what a business-friendly community does. Times the economy's not great for everybody right now, and having space that's just empty because of an ordinance that, quite frankly, you just gave us the example of why you wouldn't. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
I just appreciate that approach, and so let's fill the building.
Absolutely.
Let's not have it just sitting there, and it helps the community, it helps the businesses, and so. Once again, I appreciate working with the business owner, with the licensing process, and that communication. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, just my comment, which was along the lines of what both Councilmember Bloxham and Councilmember Morris just mentioned. But I just appreciated the city's responsiveness to changing, ordinance for the needs of the city. And I think, I was talking to someone about a month or two ago and just thinking about a lot of ordinances that are on books for many, many years for certain reasons. And the ordinance that we were talking about tonight and a few months back, it was put into place for a particular reason in trying to maintain, the certain types of businesses that were going into that space, but not knowing what would happen, 10, 15 years down the road, and knowing that we would need these types of businesses and that these would be awesome opportunities for what we do have here in the city. And so I just wanted to also express my appreciation just for being willing to see what can we do, how can we make this work. And then I think it is not lost on us as a governing body, and it shouldn't be lost on the residents either, to understand that these type of businesses, whether it's dance, gymnastics, karate, you name it, all of these types of businesses that our kids are participating in and we spend so much time and money participating in, that they can go in a location like this, and then that opens up the opportunity for other of those retail, businesses that people say, we need this in Layton, we need that in Layton. In order to have those things here, those businesses here, you have to have space that is conducive to those businesses, and it needs to be in areas where those businesses want to come. And so this just helps us to, like you said, balance out everything for our city and for our residents and those who come here, who spend money here, who help us with other things that we so enjoy. So thank you for just being willing to be flexible and figure things out.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. There's no other questions then. I'll actually turn it over to the public to see if they wish to make any comments on this item. Seeing that there's none, let's go ahead and bring it back to the council then for action regarding ordinance 25-21. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion, but first I'll echo my thanks. It's all been said, but thank you to you and your department, Weston. This is a good move, I think. I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 25-21.
Before I acknowledge that, can I also have a motion to close the public hearing? Sorry, I failed to mention that
And close the public hearing.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved in second. Once again, we'll do roll call vote. So I'll mix it up this time. How about Councilmember Morris?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
That's you.
Oh,
You're voting.
yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith Edmondson?
Aye.
And Councilmember Bloxham?
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. It's unanimous. Okay, that was the last item on our agenda for tonight. Council, if there's no unfinished business, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn. Sure.
Just a question.
Where-
Unfinished business technically means we've talked about it before, correct?
Correct. Mhm.
All right, thanks.
And I make a motion to adjourn.
You're voting on your public hearing.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to adjourn, in case you didn't hear me.
Okay, I'll acknowledge that motion to adjourn. Once again, thank you all for being here and for participating in tonight's agenda. Thank you.